Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily with Ray Flowers, Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't forget to use the promo code FSD20 for a 20% discount on the products over at fantasyguru.com. Hey there, Ray Flowers of fantasyguru.com. How you doing today, folks? It is a Wednesday. It is the 26th of June. I had to look at my calendar. I don't even know what day it is. Look at my hair. Oh my gosh, I'm a mess this morning. Yeah, I do have some hair left. Anyway, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us today. This is Fantasy Sport Daily, hosted by Ray Flowers. My crazy week of talking is continuing. 6 hours of talking yesterday, 6 hours of talking on Monday, 6 more hours of talking today. Ray, what are you talking about? Well, we got the hour-long show here in the morning, and we'll get to what we're going to be talking about here in a second. Then from 3 to 6 Eastern, we've got the Elite Sports Show. Jeff Mann's away on vacation. He'll be back tomorrow. So I'm hosting the show solo today from 3 to 6 Eastern on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. And then from 8 to 10 Eastern tonight, I'll be back on with Justin Fensterman for the Elite Sports Game Time Show. So 6 hours of talking today. In the middle of all that, answering your comments and questions over in Discord at fantasyguru.com, writing a ramblings piece, getting ready to release my 4 articles for the by the numbers for football. Those 4 articles come out tomorrow. I'm looking at my list. Starting to prep the rankings for their release on June 1st. A lot going on. And there's a lot going on in this show too, by the way. Monday through Friday here on Elite Sports. Monday through Friday on Fantasy Sports Daily. It always takes me a while to get going in the morning. You know that. But I got an answer for that, for myself at least. The show's 11 a.m. Eastern right now. Next week, a reminder, we're moving the show back an hour. So we're starting at 12 noon Eastern time, 9 a.m. Pacific time, starting on July 1st, which is next week. So next week, same show, same folks on. Armando Marsal will be on today. Tyler Beaker on Wednesdays. Russell Clay on Fridays talking football. Same plan and everything. We're just moving the show back starting July 1st, 1 hour to 12 o'clock noon Eastern Standard Time. What are we talking about today? Well, here's what we're talking about today. We got to talk about what happened last night with Gerrit Cole. Bobby Miller, too. What the hell happened there? Hunter Brown, by the way, talked a lot about Brian Woo on the show here and how he's my breakout pitcher of the year. My number 2 guy was Hunter Brown. We'll talk about him. Hunter Greene, Kyle Hendricks, Hayden Birdsong of the Giants, Dallas Keuchel, an oldie but a goodie, Chase Silseth, Graham Ashcraft, Mark Vientos, and Jonathan India. We'll then talk about some injury news, and most of it's not very good. Jackson Jung, CES, Christian Encarnacion-Strand, Kyle Tucker, Starling Marte, Jackson Holliday, Luis Garcia. That's a positive one. Kodai Senga, Liam Hendricks, and Jordan Romano. And then we'll talk to Armando Marsal. We're going to talk tight ends. This is tight end week here on the show. So today will be, again, Armando. Tomorrow's Tyler. Friday is Russell. Today we'll talk Sam LaPorta, Travis Kelce, Evan Engram, Jake Ferguson, Hunter Henry, Tyler Conklin, and Taysom Hill. Yeah, we got to talk about the non-tight end who's always listed as a tight end, who people use as a tight end, but he's not a tight end. It'd be akin to using, Gerrit Cole's a first baseman, but people do it. Taysom Hill. Yeah. Don't forget, by the way, over at fantasyguru.com, we just lowered our prices for the rest of the season for the Elite DFS package. So if you want to get involved with us, with the DFS world, Hunter Brown was our core 4 pitcher last night, as an example. Sign up right now, $99 the rest of the season. You get over half the season, a little tiny bit over half the season. Every day, we've got the GPP articles, the cash game breakdowns, the cheat sheets, the Discord room, so you can get involved there to have some success in the DFS space. And then we've also got Elite Gaming, which is obviously the wagering aspect of things. Only went 1 for 2 last night. I think I'm 9 for my last 10, if I counted right this morning quickly. We're in a little bit of a hot streak here, so hopefully you'll take advantage of that. That's also been dropped to $99.99. Myself, Jeff Mans, Ted Schuster, the MLB model, Rob Brink, all of us get involved there. So check it out over at fantasyguru.com. All right, let's get back to it. There we go. Let's talk a little bit about Gerrit Cole. Gerrit Cole was flat out atrocious last night. There's no way around that. Now, there's some good news amongst all the bad news. Let's start with the bad news first. The bad news is he gave up 4 home runs for just the second time in his career. I believe it was the second time in his career where he didn't strike out a batter. Yeah, did not strike out a batter. The other time was in May of 2016. So 4 home runs allowed, didn't strike out a batter. That's horrendous. His velocity was down. And, he was hitting 92, 93 in the second inning after, being at 95, 96 to start the game. He said after the game, and there's no reason at this point to doubt he was being honest, that he dialed back his velocity, that he threw 28 pitches in the first inning. It wasn't working. And he was trying to, figure a way to pitch his way through some innings last night to help the team in the bullpen. So despite lack of velocity, despite home runs, despite lack of strikeouts, Cole says that the velocity drop last night was intentional. I have no reason to doubt that he's being honest at this point. I don't think players, I think teams are more likely to lie. Usually with players, they'll tell you they're fine, even when they're not. But, you can't go and face the media and say your velocity is down 3 miles an hour and say it was on purpose and have it not be on purpose, because then you're straight lying. And so I think Cole is being honest. I think he was out of sorts last night. We talk about it all the time. You make 30 starts. 10 times you got great stuff. 10 times your stuff is kind of in the middle, and 10 times your stuff sucks. That's kind of the old adage in baseball. Last night was just one of those nights with Cole. That's the hope. I don't know if that makes you feel any better if you started Cole in DFS or seasonal. Everyone's probably starting him in seasonal. I guess a positive. He threw 70 plus pitches last night after being in the 60s his previous outing. We're grabbing at straws here. The good news is, again, he is not expected to be dealing with any kind of setback or any kind of injury. We will be watching his next outing very closely, as we talked about with a lot of these guys. And these questions are coming in. Do I pick up Gavin Williams, or do I go Robbie Ray or Kodai Senga? And I've honestly said to people in Discord over at fantasyguru.com, I don't know. And I'm not trying to, I don't know. Like, Walker Buehler, I don't know. Justin Verlander, I don't know. Guys coming back from injury, especially when they start to have age, you just don't know. So in the case of Cole, we're not certainly at the spot where he's Gerrit Cole, right? I think must start. I don't think he's a must start right now. In fact, next time out, if you wanted to bench him, I have no problem with that, right? Because again, there was a lot of concerns in this outing last night, but the good news is he's apparently healthy. Bobby Miller, and here's another example. Bobby Miller was able to go 6 innings against the Rockies last time out. I think he threw 79 pitches, if I remember right. So we felt pretty good starting him last night against the White Sox. In fact, he was the number 6 pitcher in the cash game breakdown yesterday at fantasyguru.com. And he went out and pitched like butt. He gave up 3 runs in 2 innings, and they pulled him. He threw 38 pitches in the first inning. He threw 22 pitches in the second innings, and the Dodgers said, "You're out, kid. We've seen enough." And this is also something that, especially when guys are coming back from injury, if there's a rough start to a game, teams will do what they did last night. He did look better in the second inning, Bobby Miller, than the first, where he was a mess. But he had 60 pitches through 2 innings, and he's just back off the injured list. They're not, we'd love to have him throw 80 pitches. 85 pitches was probably their goal. They don't want him to do it in 3 innings. So he was pulled last night. He threw 33 of 60 pitches for strikes, which is not a good ratio. And he's allowed 3 runs or more in 3 of his starts this season, and his ERA is like 6.8. Walker Buehler didn't have it when he came back from the injury list. Bobby Miller didn't have it last night. It's way too early for me to be panicking if Bobby Miller's on my team. But that was an extremely disappointing effort against a beatable White Sox opponent. We all know that, right? We always say it. Target the White Sox with your pitchers. Next scheduled outing for Miller is on Monday against the Diamondbacks if the Dodgers hold form here with their rotation. Again, another scenario like Gerrit Cole. We'll be watching that one closely because the first outing was okay. There were, I think, more positives than negatives. The second outing last night was not okay. We'll see. But a rough and disappointing effort from Bobby Miller. Hunter Brown, again, my number 2 guy in the Breakout Pitcher of the Year article. He started the season horribly. We talked about him repeatedly on this show. Answered a ton of questions in Discord because of my confidence in him. People were out and, he's pitching. His ERA is 9, all this kind of stuff. We talked about his pitch mix change here on the show one day. We spent 8 minutes talking about it. And he's figured it out. And right now, he's one of the better young pitchers in baseball. And you wouldn't know it by the ratios because the numbers are still poor because he was terrible at the start of the season. But he threw 6 scoreless innings with 7 strikeouts against the Rockies last night. That is he moved his record to 5-5. His ERA is now 4.4. Again, still a league average number. But he's allowed 4 earned runs in 31 innings this month. He's only walked 8 batters. He's picked up 4 victories. He basically, let me pull his chart up here. Is that like his 5th quality start in a row? I had it down yesterday in the cash game breakdown, but I forgot what I've written because it's been like I've noted here multiple times, it's been a crazy start to the week here. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 quality starts in a row for Hunter Brown. He has won each of his last 4 games. He's 4-1 during the stretch, but he's got victories in 4 straight games. His ERA is 1.5 over those 7 quality starts. And only once has he had fewer than 6 strikeouts. And in fact, the last 6 games have all been 6 or plus strikeouts. He's rocking and rolling. And, you know, we've talked about him and picking him up off the waiver wire. I can't imagine he's on the waiver wire right now. If he is, what are you waiting for? Hunter Brown, unlike a lot of other youngsters, has innings behind him too. It's very easy to see him throwing 150 plus innings this year. A lot of other youngsters, we always worry about that. Schwellenbach, guy for the Brewers from the Braves, I think he was the guy I was looking at the other day. He's basically already had his innings pitch mark from last year. In the case of Hunter Brown, we can see 150 plus. And the way he's pitching and the injury issues that the Astros are dealing with on the hill, they would love to get him to that number. Monday against the Blue Jays is his next outing if he stays on track. Blue Jays are obviously not a fearsome opponent at this point in time. Vladimir Guerrero is doing well, but Horowitz is doing well. The rest of the team's kind of so. Hunter Brown, continue to rock and roll with Hunter Brown, who has just been absolutely fantastic. Now another Hunter Greene, was really bad last night, and this, we've had this debate here on the shows and articles for years and years. Last time out against the Pirates, Hunter Greene dominated. 6 innings, 9 strikeouts, no walks, was great. Last night, in his next turn through the rotation, faced the Pirates, and he gave up 6 hits and 4 innings, and was awful. Now, should he have pitched last night? Well, have you seen it? He's pulled the Donovan McNabb, for those people that don't know. He throws a pitch in the first inning, and 1 second after he releases the pitch, it's Vomit City. So he throws the pitch, bleh, and it's like Gatorade coming out. You can find the video. It's everywhere. He legitimately threw a pitch, and a second later puked all over the place. First inning. Now, as someone who, when they get sick, I have an issue. I've been, I think 4 times in my life I vomited. Never from drinking. Really, never from drinking. But like being sick. And I can't stop vomiting. I have pills actually that I take after you've thrown up 10 times, I take the pill because I'll just keep throwing up. When I get sick that way, I can barely stand up. I get lightheaded, my blood pressure goes, I'm bedridden. You can throw up and play through it. Donovan McNabb did, Hunter Greene did last night, but should you? This is not, we're down at single A or we're in high school, or we're in the big leagues. So I want to write off the effort from last night. The velocity was there, and but he's puking on the mound. The bottom line is, though, this is, to me, further continuation of Hunter Greene. Every time he gets there, right? He's one of these guys. He's right there to making it happen, and then there's a setback. So I think we wipe out what happened. I face the Cardinals next. I think we just wipe out last night. And if you didn't know, the reason he struggled is, I have to imagine, he wasn't feeling good as he's thrown up on the mound. Kyle Hendricks is a really interesting case because Kyle Hendricks has, for years, been a unicorn. He throws 86 miles an hour. He's the old Jamie Moyer type of pitcher, except he's a right-hander. And last year, it started getting rough. And this year, things got so bad, he was removed from the rotation. The Cubs have had some issues, and they have been forced to reinsert him in the rotation. What happened? Well, he threw 7 innings against the Giants yesterday, gave up 2 runs, only 5 base hits. That's a .84 ERA in 21 innings this month. He entered June in 9 appearances, including 7 starts, with an ERA of over 10. Do you pick up Kyle Hendricks? It's a matchup-based play, and it can go horribly wrong. A lot of these matchup-based play guys do not have anywhere near the experience level of success level either of Kyle Hendricks. So he's got that going for him. He also has diminishing stuff. When you throw 96, you get a grace period, right? When you're throwing 85, there's no grace period. So Hendricks really has to be fine with his control. And for the most part, he has done that for years. It has changed recently. I am still very reluctant, other than people that are very much willing to stick their hand in a vat of fire to pull out a beer. I don't know why I said that. That's not even possible. How about a vat of fire to pull out a diamond? That makes more sense. I watched the Office version last night where they went on the beach and Dwight's laying on the hot coals and everything. For those of you that watch The Office. So I don't know. I hesitate. Again, even if I say Adam, he can go out and get bombed. Even if all the metrics say it's great, he can go out and get bombed. even if all the metrics and measurements and numbers and everything, data says no, he could go out and throw 6 innings like he did last night, or he threw 7 last night. So I would try to avoid using Hendricks against lineups with a lot of power. Let's use him against more of a giant squad like last night, where it's, we don't have a bunch of guys that are on pace to hit 30 home runs. But he is still someone that's so tough to recommend because reading between the lines, there's more cracks in that foundation than not. Speaking of the Giants, Hayden Birdsong is going to be promoted today. I know how everyone loves rookies. Everyone runs the waiver wire to get rookies. So let's give a quick little scouting report of Hayden Birdsong. He's going to start today against the Cubs. Shota Imanaga, by the way, was supposed to be the opponent for him. They're going to back Imanaga up to tomorrow. And I see a question about Imanaga, so we'll get to that. Imanaga is going to be pushed back to Thursday. Birdsong starts today. Birdsong is 6'4", 220 pounds. He's got good mechanics, very clean mechanics for what that's worth. I don't know anymore if it's worth anything, but clean mechanics. He's hoping, and this has changed last year, his stock has gone up. He wasn't drafted to be a star or anything in this league, but his stock has risen to the point where an SP3 or an SP4 at the big league level is kind of the goal now. I believe MLB Pipeline has him as the Giants' 6th rated prospect. So, that's not bad at all. He's got a ton of movement. He's a spin rate guy. His fastball's got a lot of ride to it. His other pitches are darting and diving. The fastball is his number 1 pitch. The slider is pretty good. It grades out 55-ish on that 20/80 scale, so that's a pretty good pitch. He's still working on getting lefties out. That's something that, he's trying to refine his pitch mix and everything for that. He did throw last season over 100 innings. You might get excited about that and say, great, he's going to throw 125-30 this year. Maybe. But he threw more innings last year than he did in 3 years in college. So that's another one of these, how many innings are the Giants going to let this guy go kind of thing. He's got an opportunity to start today. We've talked a lot about it. Blake Snell is supposed to be coming back at some point. Alex Cobb is supposed to be coming back at some point. Robbie Ray is supposed to be coming back at some point. Now, when is this going to be? I don't know. They've got Kyle Harrison who's going to be back at some point. So, this really looks like a short-term thing with Birdsong. I wouldn't get excited to run to the waiver wire because even though the Giants need him right now, if he's making more than 3 or 4 starts, it's a big problem. So be cautious with his addition there. That's kind of a quick profile of him. I see a question here, so let's get to it. Isabel says, is Imanaga being handled properly? I feel like Craig Counsell's messing with his head after the 2 rest thing, the rain delay thing. Why leave him to get annihilated for 10 runs? I don't think it makes any sense at all, personally. I don't think it makes any sense at all to have a manager mess with a pitcher's head. Imanaga's there. He signed a contract. He's getting paid. He's a professional. He's not a 20-year-old kid. He's a professional. I don't think there's anything involved with that. I think that something we do forget about, and I don't forget about it. I talk about it all the time, but we as a community sometimes forget about Imanaga. Think about the changes Imanaga's faced, okay? He's moving halfway around the world. I don't know what his personal life is like, right? I have no idea on that. But everything is different. The language is different. The culture is different. Where he lives is different. Is his family with him? Are they not with him? Is he homesick? Is he not homesick? Can he do the things he used to do back home? Or is that even available in Chicago? And remember, and I'm not trying to put Chicago down. Chicago's a lot different than, if you're on the West Coast or the East Coast, if you're on the coast, you got the oceans. Generally speaking, don't kill me here. Generally speaking, there's more of a homogenous nature on the coast than there is in Middle America. I don't know what all of that's like. Then when we're talking about the game itself, Imanaga doesn't know the stadiums. He doesn't know how to get to the stadiums. He doesn't know the hotels. He doesn't know his teammates. He doesn't know the opponents. The baseball is different. The training is different. The usage patterns are different because, over there they pitch 1 day a week. That's just how it goes. They don't play on Sundays. Everything is different. It's not just, it's baseball. So I don't think there's messing around with his head. I think all those things go into it. And also the final piece is what we've talked about here on the show and I've written about as well. Imanaga was pitching like he was, the reincarnated version of Sandy Koufax. And he's not that guy. He's just not. Right now, his numbers are still excellent. I don't think he's the guy he is right now, even after the beatings he's taken lately. That's putting way too much pressure on a guy. So I think all that goes into it, Isabel. I don't think anyone's messing with his head. I think all those things go into it, including regression. At least that's my take. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's my take. Ken Rosenthal is reporting that the Brewers have acquired Dallas Keuchel from the Mariners. Who cares? Well, apparently the Brewers care because it sounds like he's going to get a chance to start for this team, which is pretty wild. Phil Backert and I were talking about this yesterday, and Phil, the producer of Elite Sports 3 to 6 Eastern, again, I'll be hosting today. He also does cheat sheets for us for DFS for baseball, does our IDP work for football, part of the product over at fantasyguru.com. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. We were joking about Dallas Keuchel. Who cares? Well, the Brewers, when we looked at it, we looked him up, and it's like, look, his ERA is 3.9 in the minors. He's made 13 starts in the minors, has Dallas Keuchel. His ground ball rate is 60%. His ground ball to fly ball is like 3.4. Like, he's pitched like Dallas Keuchel. And I jokingly said, well, Dallas Keuchel, if he's not doing that at AAA against, guys that can't get to the big leagues, young players like that, then he's got no hope. His ratios and his numbers and everything look like Dallas Keuchel. He's 36 years old, and he's doing that at AAA, though. Like, can I expect those numbers to transition to the majors? I can't. But again, the Brewers have had some success with the Wade Mileys of the world, the Colin Rays of the world. Like, okay, so there's something to be said for that. But Dallas Keuchel's in that, he's in the Kyle Hendricks zone of, don't really want to be turning to either one of those guys. We'll see what happens. Dallas Keuchel, to me, an NL-only addition. Chase Silseth, who we've talked about previously, a big arm coming back from an arm issue. The hope was that, he'd basically slide into the rotation spot, the open rotation spot of Reed Detmers. He's healthy now. He was activated from the 60-day injured list and sent to AAA. So it's like, oh, man. So he's made a couple of starts. They haven't gone very well. The Angels are not comfortable with promoting him at this point. So anyone that picked up Silseth, hoping they'd have him by now, you don't get him. We'll see. I mean, there's an opening in this rotation. If he's not up by the All-Star break, there's problems. And Silseth is somebody that we can dream on, but it's not coming together. And the fact, again, that the Angels they're not even giving him a shot right now is disappointing. To mention the name Graham Ashcraft there, as you see on the screen, he'll start today against the Pirates as expected. He is slotting into the rotation in place of Nick Lodolo, who's got the blister issue. We talked about that on this show, right? It was yesterday on this show. I'm doing so many shows. I think it was yesterday on this show. Indeed, Ashcraft goes in there. On the offensive side, a couple of guys to discuss. Mark Vientos went 2 for 4, had a couple of solo home runs off Gerrit Cole last night, which, again, wow. We talked about Gerrit Cole and the reasons why the home runs might have occurred last night, the lack of velocity as Cole was trying to manage things. Vientos is now a part of this team, and that's it. He is the third baseman right now. Maybe that changes in the future with Brett Beatty. Maybe Brett Beatty's got to play second base. Maybe they turn Brett Beatty into an outfielder. Maybe they make, because again, remember, you got Alonso at first base. You got JD Martinez at DH. Now, things drastically change next year. If Pete Alonso is not back, and that's the way it looks for the Mets, he's going to be a free agent. Vientos and Beatty can cover the corners, and the Mets are fine. But for now, Vientos is in the lineup, and Brett Beatty's down at AAA. Vientos has done an excellent job of surpassing expectations. He has produced numbers that the organization was anticipating Brett Beatty producing. So they haven't really lost anything there. It's just the prospect has changed. The player has changed. We'll see how he handles things as the adjustments come, right? But right now he's just producing. And the Mets are starting to come around, right? Justin Fensterman, who I host the Elite Sports Game Time show from 8 to 10 Monday through Thursday. Justin's getting a little nervous about the Mets because he thinks they might make some moves, and he doesn't want them to make moves. So anyway, that's the situation with him. Jonathan India went 2 for 2 yesterday, and you think to yourself, 2 for 2, whatever. He walked twice. He scored 3 runs, and oh, by the way, he stole 2 bases. And, he is somebody that's been in the cash game breakdown. He's someone we've talked about. His June, he's hitting 361. He's got 15 runs scored. Since TJ Friedel went on the injured list, he's been hitting leadoff, hitting 7th than leadoff. Huge difference. Jonathan India has been a disappointment given expectations. And we even thought back in the preseason he would be traded, right? That didn't happen. Kind of sloughed along here, but the last month he's kicked his game into high gear, and that move in the batting order up to the first spot is very intriguing. So for those of you out there looking for an addition off the waiver wire, if he's sitting out there, might want to make the decision to add him to your squad. Josh Jung is on the cusp of returning. We thought he's not now. He's got tendon inflammation in his surgically repaired wrist. He didn't take batting practice yesterday as anticipated. They didn't offer an updated timetable. The hope was that he'd be ready to return this week, but obviously with this news, he's headed for more testing now. And again, this is another reminder because we've gotten questions about Josh Jung from folks like, do I add him? I picked him up off the waiver wire. Who do I drop when he gets activated? When a player is injured, timelines are like tissue paper, right? They're easily broken. We don't know what Josh Jung when he's going to be back. So we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully we get an update today, but it does not sound like good news at the moment. Christian Encarnacion-Strand, who people drafted this year, let's not forget. People drafted this year to be a 30 home run hitter in the center of that Reds lineup. He's going to have surgery on July 11th. So they're going to wait a couple of weeks, have surgery on his hand. His season's over. He was hit by a pitch. They're going to obviously wait for swelling to go down and everything and then fix things in there. There's ligament damage. Ulnar styloid fracture near his wrist and hand. That'll be repaired. The expectation is that he'll be fine at the start of next season, but he's missed basically an entire year of development. When he played this year, he wasn't very effective. His dynasty keeper league outlook is really waning at the moment. Not that he can't recapture things next season, but it's a totally lost 2024 for Christian Encarnacion-Strand. Kyle Tucker, we've talked about a lot. He took some swings on Sunday. Could start base running in the next couple of days. Again, he's got that shin issue after hitting the ball off his leg. It sounds like a week, 10 days, I'm guessing here. Again, they said it was okay at the start. It's already been longer than a week and 10 days, so this has taken a lot longer than anticipated. But he hopefully will start running and everything will progress. Let's hope there's no setbacks like with Jung. These things happen, though. Hopefully by the end of next week, Tucker's playing for the Astros. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. Jackson Holliday, by the way, if we haven't been keeping up on the number one prospect for the the Orioles, is reinstated off the 7-day injured list. He had missed 10 days with inflammation in his elbow. He's back in the lineup. He's going to DH for a bit to make sure the elbow's okay. He's, found his game again at the minor league levels, on-base percentages through the roof, taking walks, all that kind of stuff. The kid is back after the struggles with the big league club. We will obviously, with health, see him in the second half. When is that? I don't know. Is it take an injury at the big league level? Does it take a trade? Not of Holliday, of somebody else. We'll see. But he's healthy and he's back on the field now, looking to progress even further to force the team to recall him. Starling Marte was supposed to miss 2 weeks. We talked about this yesterday. We heard after they said 2 weeks, after they put him on the injury list, they talked to the manager, Carlos Mendoza, and all of a sudden the 2 weeks now is going to be 4. Ugh. So it's at least 4 weeks. He's got the knee issue. What is this team going to do? We hinted that hopefully Brett Beatty would get called up and they'd do something crazy like put him in the outfield. It's not what they did. They called up Ben Gamble as we predicted they could as a pivot off of Beatty yesterday on the show. So Marte's out. There's no replacement to go with the Mets. You're going to have to look elsewhere. Disappointing because that bone bruise is going to knock him out again for about a month. And he's been very effective this year. And everyone's raving of the fact that he's finally healthy, but he has succumbed to an injury like he has for the majority of his career, actually. He's dealt with a lot of injuries. Not as bad as Giancarlo Stanton, but he's dealt with a lot of injuries. A couple names here quickly before we get to Armando Marsal. Luis Garcia of the Astros. Actually, some good news for the Astros with an injury guy. Garcia is coming back from the elbow issue. He's going to make a rehab start this weekend. And this is kind of exciting. He's going to start at the Florida Complex League. Minor league rehab assignment. Let's go. There is a hope that fairly quickly after the All-Star break that Luis Garcia will be able to return to the Astros. That is great news for a team that can't keep their pitchers healthy. We talked yesterday about Justin Verlander and his continued issues with his neck. We know the other issues, Lance McCullers, Christian Javier, on and on. So Garcia would be a nice addition. Obviously, what do we expect from him? That's totally up in the air. But Luis Garcia has got a chance to return, hopefully a little shortly after the All-Star break, better way to say it, for the Astros, if indeed he can make it through with flying colors, which doesn't always happen when guys come back from injuries. Kodai Senga, speaking of not coming back with flying colors from injuries, he's hoping to start his minor league rehab assignment next week. That's kind of in line with what we're hearing. He's going to face hitters tomorrow in batting practice. If that goes well, they'll then send him on a minor league rehab assignment. Again, we talked about this, probably 4 or 5 starts down at the minor league level, I'd have to think. That puts his return, obviously, after the All-Star break. I think if anyone who's rostered him all this time or recently has added him off the waiver wire gets 14, 15 starts out of him, that'd be great news. I don't know how reasonable that is because he has had multiple setbacks. I, again, don't know what to expect. We talked about a guy who's had setbacks, has had all this time down. We've talked about him changing his mechanics. I just don't know what's happening with him. We'll closely watch his minor league outings to get a better sense of that. Liam Hendricks, he's coming back from his elbow issue. He had Tommy John surgery last August. He hopes that, maybe he'll be ready next year. Just a reminder that he's around. He is part of the Red Sox, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think he's going to make it back this year. So just an update. He's doing well. Obviously, with all the health issues, cancer and everything, he's doing well. He'll be looking to rock and roll to start of next season for the Red Sox. And then finally, another reliever, Jordan Romano, who's out with the elbow issue, started playing catch. He didn't do much. Playing catch, like we see that as a positive, and it is, but it's playing catch. Our next guest, Armando Marsal, plays catch with his son all the time. I'm sure it's not a big deal to play catch, right? So he's moving in the right direction. He's been shut down for a week because of soreness in the elbow. It's unclear when Romano will return. It's unclear if he returns prior to the All-Star break. Is he going to stay healthy? They're dealing with things in that bullpen. Obviously, Yimi Garcia is dealing with health issues. It's Nate Pearson and Chad Greene right now. Romano is hopeful of returning within the next month. We'll see if that plays out that way. And even that's not sounding that great, is it? Yeah. So you're going to continue to have to make plans in the ninth inning with Jordan Romano continue to miss time for the Blue Jays. All right. Before we get to any of your comments and questions, again, leave your comments and questions at youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork. On Facebook at facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ. You can leave those comments and we'll answer them live at the end of the show. You can also watch live on Twitter X, but you can ask questions there. And then, of course, after the show, click the Elite Plus tab at the top. You can find this show stored there on the website. You can also type in Fantasy Sports Daily into your local podcast network. And if you go to fantasyguru.com and you click on the Elite Plus tab, it takes you to all the podcasts that we do at the site, including one by the gentleman who's about ready to join us. And that's Armando Marsal. You can find his podcast, Mind of Marsal, stored there at fantasyguru.com. Armando, thanks for joining us as you do every Wednesday. How you doing today?
I'll do well, Ray. This is one of my favorite parts of the week. I like coming on here and talking football with you. It's always a good time. So looking forward to another week. I know we're talking a different position like we've been doing each and every week. And I like this one. I did their outlooks. This position, I was in charge of the outlooks this season. So it should be a fun one here to talk about here today.
Well, great. And I appreciate you nice, kind words and everything like that. And as Armando was talking about, the football product over at fantasyguru.com is available right now. I'll throw it up on the screen real quick. It's got Armando's work, Russell's work, Tyler's work. I'm in there a little bit. Jeff Mans, Ted Schuster, the entire crew pouring their heart and soul into this. There's the live stream on Tuesdays that Armando is a part of at 7 o'clock Eastern time. He's constantly, as the rest of the staff is as well, answering questions, whether it's in the dynasty room or the season room. We've got all kinds of rankings. I mean, rookie rankings, IDP rankings, PPR rankings, non-PPR rankings, dynasty rankings, other rankings. Best ball rankings. We've got them all. And Armando will be doing and you know this from the baseball product, he'll be doing a draft book with auction values and everything like that. So the entire crew is involved. Click the subscribe tab in the top right corner. Get signed up. No discount code needed. Just sign up right now. It's already been applied. Get it before the price goes up. We're rocking and rolling. All right. You mentioned tight ends, and it is tight end week, Armando. And you said, hey, I looked at the tight end. That was kind of my thing. Let me ask you the question at the top then. Is Travis Kelce the number one tight end? If it's not Travis Kelce, is it Sam LaPorta? Who are you taking there? Or do you have a dark horse that should be the number one tight end off the board?
No, so I have Sam LaPorta as my number one and Travis Kelce as my number two, but I ranked them in the same tier. So for me, they're really the same guy. I'm just going to go with the younger, player at this point. Not that Travis Kelce looked like he lost any step last year, but a little bit, maybe a half a mile per hour, right? Like, let's just say that's what we're seeing, but a half a mile per hour is a half a mile per hour. I think he's still going to be one of the better tight ends. I don't think he's going to slow down that, or diminish in any significant way. But for me, I like what I saw from Sam LaPorta. I think his role is going to remain really, really strong here. It's a good offense. I think this is an up and coming offense, and I like the trajectory that I'm seeing here. So I'm going to go with the youth here, but I have them as 1A, 1B, really. I have them in the same tier. For me, it's them and then everyone else behind them. So I have, no problems if you go one direction over the other. For me, I'm just going with the younger guy here at this point.
In a traditional 12-team league, 3 wide receivers, PPR, that kind of thing, are you finding yourself taking these guys? I mean, because you got to pay an early price, second round, third round. Does your build allow you to take these guys, or do you usually go in a different direction here, Armando?
I normally go in a different direction, Ray. It really depends on where I'm picking from and kind of the outlook of my roster at that point and things like that. But normally I don't like to invest a second, third draft capital on a tight end. That's never been my style. I've done it before in the past with Kelce. Where I'm, but it's a specific plan where I'm going to stack in a super flex and things like that. But outside of that, no, I generally wait a couple of rounds before taking a tight end.
All right. Last season, we had Evan Engram with the second most catches ever for a tight end. He went bananas. And obviously, there's going to be a lot of excitement with him. His quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, just signed a gazillion-dollar contract. What's the reasonable expectation for Evan Engram? I see some drafts. I see some ADP. Sometimes he falls farther than I would think for a guy that caught so many passes last year. Didn't get in the end zone a bunch. But where are you at with Evan Engram and his outlook for this season?
I mean, I love Evan Engram. I love this move when he was, when he went from New York to Jacksonville. This is Doug Peterson's offense. We've seen this historically. It's been really, really fruitful for tight ends. And now Evan Engram has now turned in, and not to no surprise, in my opinion, two of his best seasons since entering the NFL. He's been a top 5 tight end in PPR scoring. I think number 2 last year. So just someone that you see his role, 70% target share, 24% target share, at least 98 targets each and every year since being here with Jacksonville. I don't see his role changing. The only thing that ever concerns me with Engram is whether he could stay healthy or not, and he's been healthy for the most part. So I'm all in on him. I think people are sleeping. This is why we talk about systems here at Fantasy Guru, because it's ever since he's entered this Doug Peterson system, it's been a very consistent production from this tight end. So for me, I'm investing in him. He's one of my favorite tight ends. I text Jeff Mance during our mock draft, and I said, great pick when you took Engram like 3 picks before me. I'm still talking about that because I really, really want him in that round. So yeah, I'm big on Evan Engram this year, Ray.
Armando Marsal joining us here on Fantasy Sports Daily, talking the tight end position. And last year, Jake Ferguson of the Cowboys, 70 catches, 760 yards, 5 touchdowns, a really good season. I don't think he was drafted in a lot of spots, so it was actually an excellent season for people that picked him up. Is there another level for him? Is there likely to be a repeat here? Do you see some regression? Talk us through Jake Ferguson, who is being drafted at the back end of tight end ones right now.
I mean, it's very difficult to think his role diminishes all that much. He had 70% target share last year, resulting in 102 targets. When you look at, what this offense has done, is there anyone that's going to come in here and cut, into his production, into his role? No, I think on the contrary, I think losing someone like a Tony Pollard there, I think it's going to create some maybe more opportunities for those short passes there for Ferguson. So for me, I like him. I think he can pick up where he left off last year. And even if, he stays in that 15 to 17% target share, I think that's going to be a plenty amount of targets for him to produce, I think, a pretty consistent level on a week-to-week basis here on this offense.
What about Mark Andrews? Mark Andrews on a per-game basis, Armando, is really good. The problem is, he's starting to age a little bit. He doesn't play 17 games. We all have some concerns because the Ravens offense, some weeks it's all Lamar Jackson, some weeks it's passing. Where are we at with Mark Andrews? I mean, I think everyone says tight end 1, and he's not in that cluster of guys at the top that you got to spend a 3rd-round pick on. But what do you think about Mark Andrews? Fair ADP price and expectations for him statistically this season?
I think it's a fair ADP price, right? But I think when you invest in someone like Mark Andrews, you just have to know who you're investing in, right? And like you mentioned, durability can be an issue with him. And if you're drafting someone like him, I don't like the idea of handcuffing, tight ends. But there's some guy that's going very late in rounds, Isaiah Likely, that you can also invest in to kind of just keep stashed there, at the back end of your bench. But here's some numbers, Ray, and I wrote these. So for the first 10 weeks of last season, Andrews was tight end 3 in both fantasy points and fantasy points per game. He was 7th in receptions, 4th in receiving yards, and was leading all tight ends in receiving touchdowns. A 23% target share there for Baltimore. So this is someone that's very involved when healthy, very productive. And I like the idea of taking a chance on him, right? Because this is the kind of production and ceiling that you're getting at a very volatile position as it is. So for me, if I'm going to take a chance, I'm going to take a chance on a proven player like Andrews. And I just know what I'm investing in, right? Like I know that maybe at some point I'm going to be looking at the waiver wires for a tight end, or I'm going to be in a bind because of an injury. But when he's healthy, I don't have to worry about the position. I'm closing my eyes, plugging him in, and he's going to be starting every week. So yeah, I don't mind the investment. Again, but he's kind of going in that range where I'm still waiting a little bit longer for the tight end position. But if I am going to stack Baltimore, or if he does slide a round or two later than when I was hoping for, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and invest. But just keep in mind and be mindful that there is some risk as far as health concerns and injury concerns.
Some people don't want to pay the Kelce LaPorta price. Some people don't want to pay the Andrews price. Some people may not even want to pay the Ferguson price. So let's go way down. The people that say, you know what, I ain't paying the price. I'm taking some dude in the 12th round. Okay. Hunter Henry or Tyler Conklin? If I put you on the spot and I said which one of these guys, because Tyler Conklin's got Aaron Rodgers, we know Aaron will throw to the tight end. To me, his upside is capped. But again, we're not talking about drafting a guy here that's going to catch 85 passes. There are a lot of people out there that have prognosticated the reception totals and the yardage leaders and everything like that for the Patriots, and they kind of say Hunter Henry might lead this team in receiving this year because they don't have a great group of a great nucleus of receiving talent at the wide receiver spot. Talk us through Henry and Conklin, and who would you take between the two?
I'm going to go with Hunter Henry, but this is very dependent on the rest of your build, right? Because I think Henry is going to be very inconsistent. I think he's going to have some big weeks, but there's going to be some really down weeks. And I think you mentioned it with Conklin, like his ceiling is capped, but he's finished as a tight end 18 or better, I think, in the last 3 seasons or so. And just someone that is going to give you a 6-point floor on a week-to-week basis, right? And that's okay. Like if the rest of your roster is built so that all you need is 6 points from that position, I would probably go with Conklin. But if you're looking for upside, for me, it's Henry. And it'll be interesting to see what happens with the quarterback situation there in New England, because if they end up going with May at some point here, we know that the young quarterbacks tend to lean on their tight ends. Maybe not all of them, but young quarterbacks tend to lean on them as a security blanket. So which could result into more opportunities for Henry. You also mentioned this is just an offense that doesn't have that many resources, not that many weapons here. So yeah, I think Henry is in for a bounce back year, and I have him ranked ahead of Conklin. I do think there's more upside, but I think if you're looking for a safer floor, and maybe it's just a lower floor than your average tight end, but if you're looking for a safer floor, I think Conklin would be your guy.
Armando, Marsal, Ray Flowers here on Fantasy Sport Daily. I jokingly said it earlier, and I'll say it again directly because it's true. Taysom Hill's not a tight end.
No.
Okay. I don't know why we continue this in fantasy. He's not a tight end. In baseball, there are qualifications that are clear that allow you to play another position, right? It's games played. It's very clear. In football, we don't have that. For some reason, Taysom Hill is a tight end and Deebo Samuel's not a running back. Deebo Samuel is more running back than Taysom Hill's a tight end. It's a fact. So let's assume he's a tight end because that's how it is. What do we do with him? Because what's going to happen is if he's not drafted, he's going to have that week where he runs for a touchdown, he throws a touchdown, he scores 26 points, and everyone's going to add him the next week. They're then going to start him. He's going to score 4 points. Then they're going to drop him to the waiver wire. Then the next week he's going to score 14 points, and it's going to be that, right? Some people might just wait and take him with their last pick or something like that and roll the dice. Where are you at with Taysom Hill?
I mean, you just went through a series of events that seems very stressful for fantasy managers, right? Like very stressful. Why add this stress to your life when you're already making a ton of decisions on a week-to-week basis? No, I'm going to let someone else deal with that issue. Yes, I understand the appeal because of all the positions that he plays and whatnot. And sometimes, if there's injuries at the quarterback position, he's going to get more opportunity. No, look, you know what? I'm not going to deal with that, Ray. I prefer someone else deal with that. I get the appeal of being able to put a quarterback, because that's what he is, at the tight end position. I get the appeal, but it's not like it's a quarterback that's giving you consistent production. If there was that big of an edge, then I think he'd be a top 3-round pick. If there was really that big of an edge where he's giving you consistent production at the quarterback position, you could plug him into that tight end, but that's not the case. So I'm going to let someone else deal with that headache if we're being 100% honest with you.
Yeah. Why is he not just a flex option?
I don't know.
In baseball, we have DH, UT. Like you don't play in the field. Here's the spot you can fill. Why don't we just make him a flex play? I mean, that to me makes no sense. I agree. I think that's what they should make him, just a flex play, and that's it. Like not a specific designated position. Like no, it's just flex, and that if you draft him, it must be played in the flex. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. I agree with that. I don't know why people are stuck in their ways again. Deebo Samuel's a running back if we're doing this with Taysom Hill. Outside of the names we've mentioned, outside of the top 5, the top 10, even the top 15, down in the Tyler Conklin, Hunter Henry zone, give me a name of someone that you're targeting, Armando. Give the listeners a name of somebody that may not even be drafted in their leagues, but you could see, being a tight end one this year if things come together right.
I'm going to give one that I've been taking dart throws on. And this is, again, he's probably not going to be drafted, and it's very long shot. So keep that in mind with what I'm saying here, guys. I'm going to go with Mike Gesicki. I actually love the yes.
I have my dynasty team. Yes.
There you go. I love the landing spot for him when he went to Cincinnati there. They lost Tyler Boyd, so I can see him playing kind of that role. He's wasn't getting opportunities in New England, and he showcased what he's capable of doing in Miami early on in his career. And then obviously his issues with pass blocking kept him off the field in the McDaniel era there. So then New England, it just didn't work out. So for me, I think this is a good opportunity where he could kind of turn things around and maybe play to that level. I don't know if he'll be quite, maybe a top 12 tight end, but top 15. And if you pretty much someone that goes undrafted finishes the top 15, I think that's a win right there. So for me, if I wouldn't want to go into the season as him as my number one starting tight end, but he's someone that I could see emerging as that guy that becomes a waiver wire darling where, you picked him up and now you don't have to worry about the position the rest of the year. So I've been taking shots on him in baseball. He's probably going to be my highest owned tight end in baseball because, I have high expectations there. But again, I'm not drafting him as my tight end one. Keep that in mind. I'm usually drafting him as tight end 2 or even 3, depending on my build. So just someone I'm very excited for this season because of the landing spot. And I'm just overall excited for that Cincinnati offense. I think a lot of people are sleeping on them. And I think they're going to put it together here this year and have a big season.
And by the way, for those people wondering, Ray, that's not your starter in your Dynasty League. No, he's my backup to George Kittle. So we're okay. Right. But he's my backup there. Mark Peterson comments, Taysom's not a quarterback either. Again, I think he should be a flex option. Angelo said, I took Kyle Pitts in the 6th round. That's about, what's happening. Quick thoughts on Kyle Pitts, Armando, since he is brought up here. Totally new offense and a renewed sense of positivity, I think, around Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, I'm very excited for him this year. We've been talking about it, that we've been expecting that big year, and I think it could finally come here. I think it's the best quarterback situation he's been in since entering the league. So whether it's Cousins or Penix, whoever it is, I think he's going to be just fine. So I think this is the year that you're going to get Pitts at probably the value, and I think a lot of people are going to be recency biased next year after a solid year and pay a higher price. So I think this is a good year to invest in him.
Final comment from David P., who says, morning, guys. I'm in a 10-team PPR Superflex league. How do you attack the first 4 or 5 rounds? I was just having a conversation in Discord with one of our users at fantasyguru.com, and you get access to that if you sign up for the packages. Click the subscribe tab in the top right. And there were I forget, DK Metcalf. There was 5 top 20 wide receivers still left in the 5th round. I'm like, what? How? And then he's like, well, there's 4 teams took 3 quarterbacks, and it's everyone went nuts. Okay. This is a hard question to answer because the way you should draft may not be the way you have to draft. The answer to this, David, for me, is you got to play your league. You don't want to end up with your 2 quarterbacks being Aaron Rodgers and Geno Smith. You don't want that. But you also don't have to be the person that, takes 2 quarterbacks in the first 2 rounds. How do you play this, Armando? I think it's really dependent upon how your league drafts.
Yeah, it's always going to be situational in these, in these formats because I've been in leagues where the first 12 picks, 10 were quarterbacks, right? I've been in leagues where the first 12 picks, 3 were quarterbacks, right? So it really depends on how your draft goes. I wrote an article. It's in the draft guide there. It's part of the, draft sessions. It talks about this format. It kind of gives you numbers to follow and stuff like that. What I would generally suggest is I at least want my quarterback before that 5th round. I want one of my quarterbacks, not both. One. I'm always aiming for a top 12 quarterback on my board. You could pull Jeff's rankings. If that's what you're using, go off those rankings. You get one of those top 12 quarterbacks on his board. Start off with that. And then after that, you're building based on, how the draft falls to you. Running backs, receivers. If you could start 3 receivers, you're going to see a run at receivers. So I'll probably be going, heavy on receivers as well in these formats. If there's another quarterback run, I probably won't panic, but it really depends on what kind of quarterbacks are being taken off and things like that. So I know this is a great answer. Tyler Beaker and I talk about this pretty in depth in episode 63 of the Mind of Marsal podcast. We're also going to have, our podcast series. We're going to be talking about this later on in the year as well. So keep an eye on. But I would go off the article, check out that podcast. And, if you have any questions during your draft, come talk to us in Discord, because these are very tricky formats, because every single draft is different. Like ADP is irrelevant for these, because there's some leagues that they're going to fly off quicker than others. And I'm sure you've encountered that as well, Ray, where some leagues, like, after the first run of quarterbacks, there's a long period before that second run goes. So it depends on how aggressive your league is, and you're just going to have to adjust. I always say this, and I know it sounds, like we're not answering, but you always have to adjust, and you have to be ready to adjust. You can't go in there with one plan and stick to that plan 100%. You have to be able to adjust, because every draft is going to throw curveballs at you. Speaking of baseball.
There you go. And the good news is for you, David, it's a 10-team league. So it's not, sometimes it's a 14-team league, and then it's even more hairy, right? So 10-team league, you should still be okay. You can find Armando's podcast as well as this show. Go to fantasyguru.com. There's an Elite Plus tab at the top of the page. It pops up. You can also find the Race Guru Thunder Hour, the Basketball Diaries with Jeff Mans. You can find Justin Fensterman. You can find the One Man's Opinion with Jeff Mans. So all of the shows we have are listed there, including Armando's, Mind of Marsal. He mentioned the fact that, he's got this series of articles that are already out. What do you have coming up? Anything being released here in short order, Armando, that the folks should be aware of?
I'm working on the offensive line breakdown. That's going to be the next one. I'm also working on the quarterback target shares. That's a spreadsheet that kind of shows where the quarterbacks are throwing the football, like whether it's a tight end, receiver position, running back. So that's going to be out in the next couple of weeks as well. Those are, the two big projects I'm working on. And I'm going to be posting some drafters content as well. We got ADP targets tomorrow will be coming out. I'm probably going to be doing a live draft, video of a live draft, that kind of, my in-depth analysis on the picks and thought process on the picks as well. So keep an eye out for that as well here. So lots of things going on there, Ray.
And Angelo says that the strategy is to draft at 3 a.m. and hope the opponents are drunker than he is. I would say this, Angelo, read Armando's articles before to sober up and to get a good sense of what you're doing. If you're drafting at 3 a.m.
Yeah, I'm out.
Listen,
you're gonna beat me because I'm auto picky, Ray. Like I'm auto picky.
Here's my top 150, which is the wrong way to draft, but I'm out. Okay, Armando, I appreciate it. By the way, Armando mentioned this too, just to throw it up on the screen. Drafters, we have a deal with drafters. We have a whole section in the draft guide over at fantasyguru.com. You can see the link there. You can also obviously find it at the site, fantasyguru.com, categories, blah, blah, blah. If you're signing up with drafters, there's a chance to win millions of dollars. There's 2 promo codes as well. The first promo code is ELITE. That's if you're a new player, you've never been to drafters before, use the promo code ELITE. That gets you a 100% match for your deposit, which is fantastic. And they're also doing something that's pretty cool, Armando, because most companies, once you sign up with them, that's it. They're giving a promo code 10% match of ELITE 10 if you are a pre-existing user, which is really nice. So we do have a deal with drafters. And as you mentioned there, Armando, you guys oftentimes do drafts on the live stream on Tuesdays at 7:00, right? That's something you do in addition to the one you're talking about doing on your show?
Yes, exactly. We do that. We we'll all of us will give our thoughts on the picks. We kind of, give our, what we think, roster construction, all of that stuff. Like it's analysis with the drafting. It's pretty cool. And then you can always ask questions, like as we're drafting, of why we picked, a player, why go in this direction over this direction. Like, it's very, there's a lot of communication, and you can talk to us and things like that. So.
That's Armando Marsal. I'm Ray Flowers here on Fantasy Sports Daily. Armando's with us every Wednesday. So, Armando, thank you. Appreciate the visit today. We'll talk to you again next week, and go have a nice weekend and play catch with your kid. Right?
Yeah, play catch is good.
You do.
Yeah, yes, I do. Sometimes I got to ice the arm after, but I've got to that age, Ray, where I have to ice the arm after. But yeah, I do play catch with my kid. But yes, thank you very much. Thank you for having me on, and everyone have a great day.
I appreciate it, Armando. That's Armando Marsal. And again, you can find all his work over at fantasyguru.com. Thanks, Armando. You can also follow him on Twitter, by the way. Let me make sure I get that right, because I know some of the guys, I always get it wrong. Here, where are we at, Armando? I had it earlier. It's at Armando_Marsal. At Armando_Marsal. And he's always in the Discord updating his articles, answering questions, all of that over at fantasyguru.com. All right, so that's it today, folks. I'm looking at the questions. I think we got most of the comments. They were football related, all that. We got the Shota Imanaga one earlier. So I'll be like Armando. Wish everyone a good day today. We'll be back here again tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern time. Remember, next week, starting July 1st, which is next week, we're moving the show back an hour. So the show will be beginning at noon on the East Coast or 9 a.m. Pacific time. So 1 hour will be later. We'll still have the same plan with Armando Wednesdays, Tyler Thursdays, Russell Fridays to talk football at that midpoint of the show. It just won't be 11:30. It'll be at 12:30 Eastern. Gonna do the rest of the day today. Got the Elite Sports Show from 3 to 6 Eastern on Sirius XM. I'll be hosting that solo today. Then from 8 to 10 Eastern, I'll be back on Sirius XM with Justin Fensterman for the Elite Sports Game Time Show. And then I'm gonna take a nap because that'll be 18 hours of broadcasting in 3 days. So that's actually not true. I've got articles to write and all that. But thanks for listening today. Appreciate it. And if you enjoy what we're doing here, subscribe to the site. Great group of people, great environment in the Discord, tons of help, all the sports covered, deals, discounts, advice. Subscribe tab in the top right corner over at fantasyguru.com. I'm Ray Flowers. This has been Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com.